Hello world, and welcome back to Organised Chaos. You're with your host Phil here, and I am just touching base after the weekend's event. So on the weekend I completed 1,000 burpees in 100 minutes. To say it was way tougher than I thought would be an understatement. I sort of had this idea of being able to come into the gym, set up a camera, set up the clock and just do them on my own and chip away at them, and I'd get it done, and then I'd be able to post the video and tell everyone I did it. And then last minute I sort of decided to throw it out to anyone to see if anyone else would want to come and help me. And I am so glad I did, because there is no way I was getting through those 1,000 burpees on my own. Realistically, I feel like I would have got to about 300 and just given up. Like, in my head there was no way I had enough willpower on my own to get there. I thought about quitting multiple times throughout the 1,000, but we did get there. So I did 1,000 in 98 minutes 30. The idea was to break it up into lots of 30. So I would do 30, that would take me about a minute and a half. So I was doing 10 every 30 seconds. So I'd do 30, it'd take me a minute and a half, and then I would have about a minute and a half rest, and I would go again on the 3 minute mark. So then I would go again on the 6 minute mark, 9. I did all that up until I got to 300 reps. So that was for 30 minutes. And after that, I was absolutely cooked. I was done. So I got to a position where I was like, my shoulders were sore, my head wasn't in the game. We had probably about 15 people here on Easter Sunday coming and spending their Sunday morning at 6 a.m. doing burpees with me. So that was a big driving factor into keeping me going, that's for sure. I'm like, I can't let these people down. I can't let all the people down that I'm trying to fundraise for. I had plenty of different emotions running through my head. So after that 300, my plan was to go down to, so I sort of thought of it like, if I start at 10s and just do 10s the whole time, I've got nowhere to go down to. So the higher number I can start at, the more I can then drop it down if I needed to. So I was going to do 330, and then 20s in 2 minutes and have the rest up, so on and so forth, and then drop down to 10s. But after the 300 reps, doing them in lots of 30, I went straight to 10s. Like I couldn't even fathom the 20s. I wasn't ready for that at all. So I dropped down to doing 10 reps every minute. So it'd take me about 30 seconds. I'd get 30 seconds rest and I'd keep going. I ended up doing that for 67 minutes, which took me from that 30 minutes plus the 67 took me to 97 minutes and 970 burpees. And then I did 30 in a row after that to finish on the 98.5 minute mark. So I kept a really consistent pace when I was doing the 10 reps. So yeah, it literally took me about 30 seconds, pretty much bang on every time, which I was really stoked with. And once I got into that 10 rep rhythm, and I guess I started getting further and further along, it started to become more realistic of me actually finishing. Whereas I know that between the 300 and the 500 rep mark, after every 10, I was contemplating stopping. So it was interesting. I was trying to really analyze my thought process throughout. Once I got to low 400s, I'm like, oh, if I get to 500, I'll be happy. Then I'll take a 10-minute break, and then I'll just do it in 110 minutes. And I started thinking of all these excuses, or I'll do 500 before lunch, and then I'll come back later on and do 500 more. And I started just having all these sort of excuses rolling into my head. But what really helped was everyone literally was there next to me doing them with me. So we had guys that completed 600 plus burpees with us, which was unreal. So I needed those people near me, because otherwise, I quite easily could have listened to my head and been straight out of there. Like I said, if I was on my own, I dare say the 1,000 wasn't happening on Sunday morning. yeah, so on a little bit of notes here, I've got completed it all in 98 minutes and 30 seconds. I had a look at my Apple Watch data after it. I burnt 1,777 calories in that time frame, with an average heart rate of about 160. So once I started to get that rhythm going with the 10 reps, 30 seconds rest, 10 reps, 30 seconds rest, it sort of averaged out to about 160, my heart rate, and would sort of hover there. In here it has, my heart rate was between 160 and 172 for 56 minutes of that 98. It was between 147 and 159 for 28 minutes, and then the rest was either lower or higher than that. The thought processes that ran through my head throughout that whole time frame were, it sort of went from like, I've gone out too hard here, or my shoulders are cooked, or I haven't prepared enough for this, or this is a lot harder than I first thought it was going to be. And then when I've got to 300, 400, a few more people started to rock up, and I'm like, I can't just stop when people have just rocked up to join in or to come support me or whatnot. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, they've just come, so I'll try and push out a few more while they're here. And then a few more people would rock up. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep chipping away. And I always say to my clients, like, one foot in front of the other. And like, if you're just taking one step in the right direction every day, we're going to be further than we were the day before. So for me, it was like, okay, if I just do one more set, I'll see how I'm feeling after that set. Okay, I'll just do another set, see how I'm feeling after that set. And like, although you're sitting at 500 reps and you're halfway and you've got 500 more burpees to do, and you've never done anywhere near that amount of burpees in your life, let alone like a day, I'm going through this process in my head. If I can just do one more set, And by the time I got to about 700, it started to feel realistic that I was actually going to finish it. And it wasn't until then that I actually thought that, especially after going out with the 30s and feeling like everything was sore, everything hurt, whatnot. So I had these moments throughout, and that one was probably, the rough stage was probably that 300 to 500 mark. But in that stage, I started to think about a few different things that got me through it. One was obviously the reason why I was doing it, obviously raising funds for the Haemophilia Foundation Queensland, and thinking about all the people who couldn't even like be in that position to be able to do a burpee, let alone have that privilege of being able to move their body, or have all these joint issues, or like all the circumstances they're going through, whereas I'm just putting myself in this pain. They're actually in pain and they can't do anything about it. So that sort of ran through my head. Obviously my dad being a haemophiliac, he came into my head in the sense of, I'm here trying to help him. I'm trying to help the people around him, the people that he's been sort of around his whole life in the Haemophilia Foundation. And he popped into my head. And then also Therese was a client of mine who passed away last year from motor neuron disease. And she was someone who literally would like strive to do burpees. And before she started to get unwell, she was doing them so well. And like, for me, it was such a like an eye-opener to see someone so excited to do burpees and so excited to be able to do burpees. And yeah, when she passed away, it was like, it hit me hard, it hit everyone around us hard. And just to be like, she wasn't able to do any exercise for the last maybe 12 months of her life. So just to be able to exercise, I needed to see it as a privilege, and that helped change my mindset around the burpees at the time. So I started to think, oh look, I'm lucky to do these burpees. It's not going to be the end of the world if I do another set of burpees. Like, I need to be in a better mindset about them. And her, my dad, the Haemophilia Foundation, and everyone around me that was there on the day definitely changed my mindset and definitely got me to that 1,000 mark, which I'm so grateful for. The aftermath. So once I finished, I sort of just collapsed there and was done, like completely done. I got up and like throughout probably the last maybe 300, 400, I started to feel my left elbow go. It started to get a bit of a pain in it, like a tennis elbow sort of pain. So every time I went down, I felt this slight pain. And then also my right groin. I never really had any issues with the groin throughout the burpees I've done, but it started to feel a little bit sore every time I would sort of kick my feet back. So those were the two things that started to hurt quite a bit throughout the burpees. I was a little bit worried about my thumbs and my wrists and stuff like that, but they weren't too bad, surprisingly. So I was pretty happy with that. But the aftermath, more so that afternoon and the next day, my hamstrings, which I was super surprised about, but once I sort of break it down, I never actually straighten my legs out completely. Like my jump is a pretty half-assed jump at the top of the movement. When I'm kicking my legs out, they aren't completely straight. So they're kept in this range that sort of tightens them up a bit. And they've been like probably the most sore they've ever been, to be honest. And both hamstrings evenly, like there's no overload on one side over the other. But yeah, the hamstrings got me really good, which was surprising. And then my upper back and neck, which makes sense with the whole moving my head sort of a fair bit, going down and up, a lot of jolting movements on my shoulders. So those were what I still saw today. So what's today's, we did it on Sunday, today's Tuesday, Monday. So like 2 days post burpees. My hamstrings are still cooked. My elbow and my groin have actually come quite good since. I did an ice bath on the day of, the day before, the day of, and the next day. So the Saturday, the Sunday, and the Monday, I did an ice bath all 3 days. And I feel like that helped a lot. Today, I've just been stretching my hamstrings quite a bit. I actually did do a little bit of training, which was just like a few back movements, nothing too crazy. And obviously my 100 burpees that I'm continuing on. But yeah, all in all, after yesterday feeling like I was run over by a bus, today feels a whole lot better, which is surprising and also a really good feeling. Yeah, really grateful to not be sore all week. I sort of rid off this week training wise. We've got basketball tonight. I thought I was going to be no chance, but I'm actually going to go play and see how I go. So whereas I thought I might be out all week. So no, very happy with how I've recovered. After doing the day 100 and doing 1,000 on day 100, everyone's sort of expecting me to do 2,000 on day 200. And after how I felt yesterday, I completely ripped that off and said there's no way in hell I'm doing that. But after today, I'm sort of like, oh, maybe I can. And I think I would, if I was to do it, and we'll see what happens. I've got 100 days to sort of figure it out. But if I was to do it, I think that I would definitely just stick to the 10 reps every minute, because I think that once I get into that rhythm of that, I think I was a lot more, I guess the word is sort of relieved after the 10 to be able to have that 30-second break than I was relieved after the 30 to have a minute 30 break. I think that, I can punch out 10 without really thinking about it, but 30 would start to get to a position where I was hurting. So if I was to do 2,000 or even just do the 1,000 again, I would definitely just be doing 10 every minute for the 200 minutes of it. To get to the 2,000 rather than breaking it up any other way. I think that's just the way that I've sort of figured it out now to make it work. And then obviously I've got day 300 as well in there, and then the last day of the year. So a few big events that we'll sort of figure out how we're going to what we're going to work towards to do for them, whether it is the 2,000 burpees or we try and get 200 people to be doing burpees at the same time or whatnot. I really want to try and make especially those days really big, and then also run some more fundraisers throughout the year, trying to raise as much funds and awareness for the Haemophilia Foundation Queensland, obviously, and try and get as much funds as we can sorted. On that front, actually, we've just been given a link to a fundraising page for that, which we've been sort of waiting for. So we now have that. I'll put that link below, so you guys can click on that. And if you are willing to donate any money, then please do. No pressure whatsoever, of course. And then until the next Organised Chaos podcast, I'm your host, Phil. Please subscribe. All the little things that I haven't talked about yet, subscribe. We're obviously trying to build a bit of a community here, a bit of a brand as well with Organised Chaos. So please subscribe and join along the journey. Like the podcast on whatever we're watching it on or listening to it on. And stay tuned for the next one. Thanks, guys.